Hello and welcome back to Indian Standard Time. I'm Jyoti Malhotra with the Tribune, and the most interesting story of the day is the return of Tahawwur Rana, one of the Mumbai attack accused. Back in 2008, Tahawwur Rana, along with David Coleman Headley, were among the masterminds of the Mumbai attacks, in which about 174 people were killed and several more hundred injured. Now, we know that the Pakistan military masterminded the attacks. They trained the 10 terrorists, set them off on a boat from Karachi to Mumbai, and then all hell broke loose as the Pakistani military establishment tried to bring India's financial center to its knees. Yesterday, I spoke with Manish Tiwari, the MP from Chandigarh, as well as a long-time analyst on international affairs, and asked him about the importance or the significance of the return of Tahawwur Rana back to India after 17 long years. And today, I speak to Ayesha Siddiqa, one of Pakistan's most respected and best-known political analysts. Actually, she's a very well-known expert on the Pakistan military, having written 2 books on the military, and where she talks about how the Pakistan military is the most important and the fundamental actor in Pakistan's polity. Ayesha Siddiqa is also with the King's College in London. She is based in London, and just a few moments ago, I interviewed her on Zoom. Take a listen. I'm with Ayesha Siddiqa, very well-known Pakistani analyst on Pakistan's military establishment. She currently lives in London and is a senior fellow at the Department of War Studies at King's College in London. Ms. Siddiqa has written 2 books on the Pakistan military, keeps in touch with her home country. Ms. Siddiqa, thank you so much for speaking to me on the Tribune. And my first question to you is, actually, it's a comment and a question, which is that Tahawwur Rana, one of the accused in the Mumbai attacks of 2008, has finally been extradited from the US back to India. What is your first comments as a Pakistani analyst on this whole issue?
Well, my first comment would be, as an analyst, not necessarily as a Pakistani, is that, in this Mumbai, long-drawn Mumbai case, there is a movement. Is it going to lead to something more pressure on Pakistan? That I'm not sure. Will this lead to further extradition of, for example, David Headley, who is more critical? I mean, Tahawwur Rana, we know, organized a few things. His tickets, his work, the opportunity to go to Mumbai for David Headley. But the actual culprit, the main accused here is David Headley. And he, was connected with the Drug Enforcement Agency of the United States. And, of course, it also leads to questions about United States responsibility. So will they extradite him? Will this naturally lead to that? There'll definitely be more pressure. There will be, things will be talked about. Mumbai case will be brought up, but would it necessarily lead to Americans putting more pressure on Pakistan? At this stage, I'm not sure about it.
So why not? Because, so apart from the fact that it's a big, big story back here in India, the 2008 Mumbai attacks, as you remember very well, Ayesha, was a big, it was in a sense, it changed the India-Pakistan relationship from one that was going swimmingly well in the years prior to that. And we used to go, journalists like me and people like you, we would come meet each other in our respective countries. Travel across the border. The 2008 Mumbai attacks really put an end to that, and it brought in a lot of bitterness into the relationship. Now, why do you think that this Tahawwur Rana extradition will not put pressure on the Pakistani establishment?
See, because it's not just 2 countries in a relationship, and I completely agree. I mean, it was horrible. It was tragic. Much that the Pakistani establishment tried to kind of escape from it and say whatever. I think the political governments then were very clear. They were at least clearer that there was some responsibility. And, firstly, there is so many years that have passed. And I don't think the Pakistani establishment, wants to remember it.
Why
Well, the
not?
establishment, why would they? I mean, firstly, not because of any other pressure that India could put. It was because of the international community, the Financial Action Task Force. A lot of these characters were kind of wrapped up, put in what I call fridge, not the freezer, or the freezer. Sorry, the freezer, not the fridge. Uh, the thing is that right now, I don't think that the current military echelons are very excited or want to remember Mumbai, because what they're bothered about is what's happening in Balochistan. And they find and they feel that India is responsible, and therefore, it's like getting even on that score. Uh, the other thing is that in this relationship, uh, there are more than two countries. There is United States as well.
Okay.
And what Pakistan thinks it can still do is catch up with India as far as relations with the United States are concerned. Pakistan is not part of Quad. I don't think at this point in time they're even bothered to be part of Quad.
Right.
But as long as they can ensure that they remain inside the room, have a conversation with the United States. I mean, for example, there was a lot of excitement when very recently, this ISK, Islamic State, Khorasan chap was caught and handed back to United States. And there was a lot of excitement that, Donald Trump in his first speech
Right.
to the joint session of Congress and Senate mentioned, thank Pakistan. Mark Rubio probably is called, the National Security Advisor is called as Haqdar. And so what they want to do is pick up on what American needs are right now to remind Washington that, look, there are certain needs that we can fulfill, but for that, you do not necessarily have to kind of push India's case
Okay.
beyond a certain point.
So
And
just
I feel that's doable.
So just to go back on the first point that you made about Balochistan, that there seems to be a lot of attention back home, back in Pakistan, about what's happening in Balochistan, whether it's the insurgency. A lot of people are also dying in the blasts that are taking place. So you're saying that the Pakistanis believe that India is behind this?
Yeah. I mean, what I heard is that in a joint session to the parliament, they kind of presented some evidence to the parliamentarians, saying, pointing a finger towards India, and I'm told some towards Iran as well, saying these are responsible for whatever is happening. And my sense is that in the last few months, primarily because of Balochistan, the army generals have been more willing to kind of, uh, put organizations like Jaish and Lashkar-e-Taiba out from the freezer into the fridge.
Yeah.
Now, they haven't started cooking the dish
Mm.
because the international environment is still not suitable for that.
Okay.
But I think they're upset, and because of insurgency in the country, and they feel that if India could be pushed back, if India could be dissuaded, and it's like, so for them, this is like tit for tat. Yeah, we did Mumbai, but and the other thing is that for a military bureaucrat,
Mhm.
I think it's important to remember is that what happens in the present
Yeah.
is what's more important. So for
Okay.
them, Mumbai is now, let me finish this.
Yeah.
Mumbai is, it's more than a decade.
It's
Now,
not 17 years.
yeah, okay, 17 years, almost 2 decades. Now, that basically means that, yeah, something happened. And there are now actually fewer officers in the military, retired also, who know and who would kind of even speak informally and say that, yes, we knew where things were happening, uh, from where engines were bought to be fitted into the boat, which took these characters into the sea, and that there was responsibility. But 17 years hence, the current leadership is like, I wasn't responsible. I don't want to even look at it. All I want is that this thing, what happened in the past, shouldn't reflect on my future.
But is there an acknowledgement, Aisha, not just among retired bureaucrats, but even privately amongst the political class? After all, some of the same people are still in power. Shehbaz Sharif is the prime minister today of Pakistan. His brother, Nawaz Sharif, a former prime minister of Pakistan, he was not in power in 2008 when the attacks took place. I think Musharraf was still in power, if I'm not wrong, former President Musharraf, who's since has died. Now, the people of Pakistan, do you acknowledge that the Mumbai attacks were carried out by the Pakistani military establishment, or at least, the terrorists were trained by them, and that they did organize all the wherewithal, the infrastructure to put them on a boat to basically bring India's financial capital to its knees?
My dear Jyoti, let me tell you a very interesting incident. So, I remember this is soon after Mumbai.
Mhm.
Uh, some of us, uh, a bunch of us, about 10, 12 writers, journalists, were invited by President Zardari.
Right.
Soon after, soon after, we got an invite from Nawaz Sharif and Shehbaz Sharif. And
Uh-huh.
we went to see him in the Punjab house. And I remember we were having this conversation. And I, in fact, pointed out to Mia Nawaz Sharif. I said, the drones over Afghanistan or Fatah. Do you want drones over Punjab? And he looked at me and said, why there should be drones over Punjab? I said, because this terrorism is coming out of Punjab, which is under your control. And I distantly remember he, suddenly turned his face and he looked at his brother and, with a sense of shock. And then many years later, Dawn Leaks. I mean, what was Dawn Leaks about? It was Nawaz Sharif, it was politicians basically trying to hold this conversation with the military that look, uh, there is a concern, international concern, that there is uh, militancy, there is terrorism coming out of Pakistan, and so it should stop. Uh, and of course, we know what happened. They sent Mia Nawaz Sharif home. Dawn Leaks was actually used
Yeah.
to find an excuse to send him home.
Yes.
Uh, but I think he knows, he admits, uh,
That
and
Nawaz Sharif
he
knows and
knows there is a
admits.
problem.
So Nawaz Sharif knows
Yeah.
and admits that the Pakistani establishment.
Asif Ali Zardari does the same. But when they're part of the government, they're not going to cross a line
What is this?
because they know that, well, the line is that, you're not going to go an extra mile and say, you tell India that, look, this is what happened. I mean, look what happened soon after Mumbai. Mahmood Durrani, who was a military man himself, Major General Mahmood Durrani. I mean, he was one of the more official voices who said that Admiral Kasab was from Pakistan, the Pakistani citizens, because initially the establishment was trying its best to hide that any of these guys, including Ajmal Kasab, who
Yeah.
accidentally got caught,
Yes.
was from Pakistan, right? So Mahmood Durrani was the only one who said, yes, it was. And then they went into kind of, and the important general then was General Kiani. Uh, General Kiani, despite whatever was said, that, I remember hearing in Islamabad, I used to be in Islamabad then, hearing in Islamabad that, oh, he wants to have trade with India, improve relations, this and that. No, he didn't. Kiani just wasn't interested in that. I mean, he was a very traditionally trained soldier and general whose main focus was, who saw India as an enemy. And that's where he stood, and that's where a lot of military stands. This gentleman, this army chief, Asim Munir, is again very traditional, not sympathetic with India. Uh, if he could have his hand, if he could manage it, he would, pull out the old game and play it of jihadis.
And play the jihadi playbook. Asim Munir, the current army chief, he would, if he had his way.
Yeah, he would. If he had his way, but he can't.
Yeah.
Primarily because of the domestic issues, but also the international environment would not look very kindly towards that.
So is the
But
Pakistani military establishment or is the Pakistani elite of the view that India is getting even with Pakistan within quotes and therefore instigating the insurgency in Balochistan because the Pakistanis have sponsored cross-border terrorism for several years? Is that the view?
I would argue that yes, the Punjab-based elite, that's what they believe, and the
India is
political
getting even.
leadership.
And
Yeah, recently, for example, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari on Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's death anniversary, that anniversary function. Um, though just a bit of a diversion, a speech. I wasn't sure it was Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's anniversary or Asif Ali Zardari's anniversary. Uh, but the fact is that, the way he kind of presented the whole insurgency and the unrest in Balochistan was more of a external hand, somebody else is doing it. And it's all about destroying Pakistan and therefore a complete rejection.
Aisha explained to me, we really, and I personally, and also I think a lot of Indians like me, want to ask you, and you're one of those who doesn't hesitate to speak up and speak out, both about India and about back home and about issues in Pakistan. Why did the Pakistani military establishment even contemplate, leave alone carry out an attack like it did in Mumbai?
Why did they do Kargil? You know, uh,
Why?
Basically senseless, very tactical, very tactical. Also, it was a point where they thought that, uh, you know, damage India's image. Because I tell you something, for the longest, Pakistani establishment's problem is we have, I mean, within quotes, we have an image problem. India doesn't. Uh, so that's a constant refrain. We have an image problem. So, in some ways, what they were trying to do was give an image problem to India, that it's so insecure, you have bombs going off, you have terrorists coming. See, the idea was not for Admal Kasab to get caught. I
Right.
mean, ultimately, these guys went with a do and
Yeah.
die agenda, right? We'll all die. So once you catch someone, once you find dead bodies, the blown up, uh, say Admal Kasab hadn't survived,
Yeah.
let's suppose, then it would have been a longer process. India providing some evidence, Pakistan saying, where is the evidence these guys are Pakistanis? There's an accusation. It would have gone on forever, right? So what, but what it would have done definitely is that shake up India. You kind of have this mayhem in its economic capital, um, and then see if the international community, the world comes and visits. So, and remember that Pakistani military has forever been very tactical in its approach. Uh, it's a 1 to 3 months planning. Um, just to remind you that the Kargil plan was
Mm.
once shown to Benazir Bhutto
Mm.
when she was the prime minister, and she rejected it. She was like, "No, we ain't surviving this."
Mm.
Uh, she, as a politician, had the sense, uh, and so she could see that there were gaps there.
Yeah.
These guys don't. Military men don't. I mean, we got to do it, and therefore, uh, don't look
Somebody
at
like
political consequences.
someone like Nawaz Sharif, Aisha, who who is one of the two men who, along with India's former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, was they had that Lahore handshake back in 1999, and we know what happened after that. We've talked about this ad nauseum, right? The Lahore handshake and so-called peace breaking out between India and Pakistan was not liked by the Pakistani military, so Kargil happened. But the question is that today, Shehbaz Sharif is the Prime Minister of Pakistan. His brother, Nawaz Sharif, has been to jail, sent by none other than President Musharraf, who thought he was too much of a peacenik. Now, doesn't Shehbaz Sharif understand that you need to make peace with India too, just like his brother once tried?
He may, but what can he do with it, with that thought? He would rather hold that thought and stick to power. He's seen his brother. What did it cost him? Removal. I mean, personally, I think that in 2017-18, Nawaz was not only removed uh, because of his association with India. I think it was because of his association with China as well.
Hmm.
Uh, Primarily because of that. Uh, but the fact is that why challenge? I mean, Shabazz has forever been Nawaz's wingman, been the chief minister in Punjab. Now he's for the first time in his political career, despite his rumors about his health, he's the prime minister
Yes,
and he's
yes.
delivering. The military is very happy with him, happier than they could have ever been with Imran Khan. This one does everything. I mean, as somebody was laughing, they were talking to me. They were like, poor Shahbaz Sharif, every night when he goes to sleep, he thinks about what can he do when he wakes up first thing in the morning to make General Asim Munir happy. Uh, it's about power. You know, I think 90s, which got criticized in India a lot, I think because Indian analysts don't understand Pakistan and didn't at that point in time. Ad nauseum, they were like, government, Pakistani politicians this, Pakistani governments that. I think 90s was clearly a solid phase where one after the other, Benazir, Nawaz Sharif, Benazir again, Nawaz Sharif again, understood one thing. If they wanted to wrest control of politics, they would have to make peace with India. Uh, and I would give full marks to Benazir Bhutto, who in fact, despite all her love for her father, walked away from Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's policy I mean, let's not forget that Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was the army's ideologue.
Yeah.
1,000 years of war, years
Within.
of war with India, etc. So
So now
she
to
could
come, yeah.
turn
So to come
away.
back to the, yeah. So to come back to the
This
present.
generation can't. This generation can't. Bilawal Bhutto, no. Mariam Nawaz, no.
No,
Shahbaz
what?
Sharif,
No to what? What
no.
are you saying? No to?
They will not, they don't have the capacity to challenge the establishment and reach out to India and say, let's talk peace.
And the Pakistan, so neither Nawaz and Nawaz Sharif, he still remains a powerful influence over his brother, the prime minister, doesn't he?
Yeah, it doesn't. But he just got his daughter a good junket controlling Punjab. Why would he want to shake it up?
Well, you're painting a dismal picture of things back home, Aisha. But just to bring you back to the present here in India, well, at least everybody's celebrating it, at least in the media, that Tahawwur Rana has finally been brought back, and that um, I think the bigger question, like you asked earlier on in this discussion, is that why is David Headley, the master instigator or the agent provocateur, however we describe him, why is he still in a prison in Chicago? And he's obviously not going to be sent back because he's probably cut a deal with the Americans. But
Jyoti, let me very quickly say something. You see, of course, when something happens related to Pakistan, there's a lot of excitement in India and vice versa. But I think logically, what are you going to do with Tahawwur Rana? Tahawwur Rana, the Indian teams have already
well,
questioned
you're
him,
going to find out,
interrogated him.
you're going to get more details on what exactly happened in Mumbai.
No,
And
no,
you're
no,
going to
no,
put
no,
the
no.
blame,
But
you're going
no,
to
no,
pin the
no,
blame on the Pakistani
no,
military establishment and perhaps
no,
say
no.
that, listen, this is what you guys did.
Jyoti, I think this is senseless. I mean, you can torture a person and then get something out. And I think under being imprisoned in India, if he if we get more details, it's not going to be neither here nor there. Pakistan can always say, under duress, he could have said something. Because that's the point I'm making, that while he was still in the United States, Indian teams went several times and they've interrogated him.
Mm.
So at best, what you're going to do is, hang him like Admal Kasab. But
Yeah.
nothing, I don't think that what we're looking at is a natural conclusion or end of the Mumbai,
Episode.
episode. Uh, because one, again, there's going to be who said, you said, I said, that kind of a thing. And the other thing is United States. What are
Yeah.
you going to get out of that? And right now, global politics, because of Donald Trump, is at a juncture where I think Pakistan feels that it has got a bit more space in a dialogue with the United States than it did during Biden. So it's going to make use of it.
That's really
And
interesting.
and and,
Yeah, it's really interesting you
and
say
that,
that, Aisha, because in India, I think the perception is that Pakistan is walking itself into a big hole, and the Indian government feels that it has a good relationship going with Donald Trump. But it's interesting you say that, and perhaps you have other ideas in mind about Afghanistan. But I'm not going to take you to Afghanistan because that's another conversation with you another time. But the last question that I have for you is, you know, why is why are the Americans not giving up David Headley? There's been a lot of pressure on them by the Indian establishment, as you can imagine. Why do you think they won't give him up?
firstly, forever, that would indicate what the Americans knew, what they didn't tell
You think they
the
knew? You
Indians.
think the Americans knew?
See, David Headley, they were at least watching him. They knew there was some amount of responsibility, uh, and the whole relationship that he has. And he's done plea bargain. I don't think that. Donald Trump is very friendly with Prime Minister Modi, but I don't think that uh, he is not mindful of his other concerns.
Right.
Um, so I don't think that, I mean, of course, India, United States have special relations, but it's not the extra special relations that probably that could be imagined under the previous regime. This is going to be a struggle every day kind of a relationship, special struggle every day kind of a relationship. I mean, the whole world has that
Yes, absolutely.
with the United States at the moment. So we don't know. I mean, he might need something, and in fact, I think
But
there
you
was a
don't think, but you
statement
don't
by
think they're going to, but you don't think they're going to give up Headley to the Indians?
too early, and depending on what will India offer, how will it convince Trump, why is it important? Uh, and don't forget that right now, Pakistan will also be in a conversation. There are minerals, there are lithium, there is China pushing back China. So a lot of things in which, Donald Trump
Lot of
may
balls up in
think
the
he
air.
can do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there, Ayesha Siddiqa. But thank you so much for speaking to me with and on the Tribune's YouTube channel. It's a real pleasure always to talk to you and to explain things around. You really do give us a fresh perspective on things. Thank you so much. That was Ayesha Siddiqa, one of Pakistan's most respected experts and analysts on Pakistan's military. And before I go, dear viewer, I'd like to request you to subscribe to the Tribune's YouTube channel and to tell me what you think about my show, Indian Standard Time, as well as all the other shows from the Tribune's multimedia stables. Thank you so much for watching, and bye for now.